Morning.
Doing the Republic's work. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and most importantly, my fellow citizens. Welcome back to the Mojave as Larks Lamentation looks at everyone's favorite post-apocalyptic republic, the New California Republic, or NCR for short. Okay, so a little heads up. I'm going to focus on the NCR in the Fallout New Vegas, not from the first two games. I will mention them, and I will have some of their history weigh into my reasoning, but when referencing things outside of New Vegas, I will be mentioning them in broad strokes. Don't crucify me if I get a detail about Fallout 2 wrong. That's Lanius's job, and I'm not putting him out of work. Yet.
Oh, they're going to have to glue you back together in hell!
Anyway, with that out of the way, let's discuss the NCR. You see, they're an incredibly flawed faction, which most of you already know. They got a lot of room for improvement. But with all that being said, they're my favorite faction in game. Whoa, Judas H. Priest, calm down. But what about taxes? That's the real slavery. All right, friend, I'll let you criticize the NCR, but you have to do it without referencing Russian Badger's video on the subject. That's what I thought. Now relax, don't fret. I will be addressing actual legitimate criticism of the NCR, but a lot of the more recent NCR criticism comes from people referencing memes and jokes, and a lot of people think that jokes equal compelling criticism rather than jokes coming from compelling criticism. Point is, there's good reason to object to the NCR, but unfortunately a lot of those good reasons get drowned out in a sea of memes. Funny though they are. Let's go into it. The NCR has issues, but they're the best, and let's dive into why. But before we can get into the real problems, we gotta start with the history of the Republic. See, the NCR can trace its origins back to Vault 15 in California. Vault 15, much like other Vault-Tec vaults, had a twist to it. Vault 15 was filled with numerous people of different ideologies so that Vault-Tec could monitor their failings. After 50 years of the Vault being almost insufferable to live in, the majority of people left the Vault to create a new life for themselves. The exodus from the Vault saw 4 distinct groups pop up out into the wasteland. The Vipers, Jackals, and Khans, all of which were raider gangs. And the last group, though, had the actual decent people of Vault 15. They escaped the Vault and made the town of Shady Sands. It is from this town a great republic shall rise. Now, despite the great destiny of the town, Shady Sands' origins were very humble. It was just a simple farming town in the middle of the apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic California. Often found at the mercy of raiders. Over time, though, Shady Sands would come together to form a constitution and a new government. It is here they would build the new California Republic in 2189. As the years passed, the little town grew into a large sprawling republic incorporating much of Southern California, along with territories in Northern California, Oregon, Nevada, and Mexico. As the NCR grew, the young nation found itself emulating the old world United States. Soon the people in the NCR were no longer fighting just to survive in the wasteland, but struggling on issues that more civilized and contemporary societies deal with. But the existence of the NCR was not all sunshine and rainbows. There was much conflict to be had. The NCR throughout the course of its existence has had to deal with all kinds of problems, including, but not limited to, raider gangs, super mutants, the Enclave, and the Brotherhood of Steel. Yet somehow the NCR survived all of them and is still swinging. Though a few of those do deserve a bit more of an explanation. See, the NCR was not instrumental to defeating the Enclave proper. They did come to blows with them at the Battle of Navarro. Then there's also the super mutants. They did technically fight super mutants, but they weren't really a thing when the Master was the one running the super mutants. So, put that into context. But now let's get to the big one that we really need in context, the Brotherhood of Steel. Now, the Brotherhood and the NCR started duking it out over tech, because of course they are. As the NCR rose to prominence in California, the Brotherhood got a little nervous and basically started running around grabbing all the good tech left over from the Great War. They were already doing this, but they started doing it faster. But anyway, they wanted to get all the nice toys for themselves, and they were starting to tell the NCR they could go screw themselves if they didn't like it. Well, the NCR in fact did not like the Mechanicus wannabes telling them what tech they could or couldn't have. So naturally, war broke out. Not surprising, but what is surprising is that the NCR actually won. Well, sorry, technically they're still winning. The Brotherhood had an early lead in the conflict due to their superior equipment and training, but the NCR introduced the Brotherhood to the concept of attrition and tactical flexibility.
You can't touch me up here.
We have blasters!
One of those does nothing.
How about 100?
Wolverines?
Remember, the West Coast Brotherhood isn't as smart as its Eastern counterpart because they don't recruit new members. As a result, the Brotherhood found itself being forced back because they couldn't replace losses. Not to mention the Brotherhood started to have to put inexperienced young recruits in the fields as knights out of desperation. Over the course of the war, the NCR destroyed or claimed 6 Brotherhood bunkers. While the war is still technically going on, the Brotherhood is hiding, with the NCR practically victorious. That being said, the Brotherhood did leave some consequences for the NCR, aside from just a large number of casualties. The Brotherhood in the early days of the war hit the Republic right where it hurts: its economy. See, the NCR, after growing large enough, switched from bottle caps as currency to gold-backed dollars. The Brotherhood attacked any NCR gold mine they could find, causing an economic crisis which actually carries over into New Vegas. Regardless of all that, the NCR still had plans, and one plan that seemed to have the most promise was the Mojave. The NCR scouts found that the Mojave had a great deal of potential for the Republic. With there being potential for great power from Hoover Dam as well as water, there was also power they could sap from Helios 1. So there's a lot of things to be had in the Mojave. Not to mention, Vegas, gambling, all that jazz. But we're focused on what's important. Water and power, baby. The essentials. But if the NCR could get these resources, they could fix a lot of the problems that the Republic seemed to currently be having. So the NCR moved in, signed a treaty of union with the Desert Rangers in the area, and started taking the dam and kicking the Brotherhood out of Helios 1. Also, they signed a treaty with Mr. House to let New Vegas remain independent because he had an army of Securitrons, and they didn't want us to deal with that at the moment because they had an even greater threat on the horizon, the Legion, which we've talked about, but we're going to go into again. With the armies of the Wasteland's greatest Romabu, the NCR dug in around the dam and prepared for an attack, which came, but the Legion onslaught was fierce. The NCR, though, was about to prove that they could do more than just play a game of attrition. The NCR feigned a retreat to Boulder City, with Rangers picking off Legion officers the whole way. By the time the Legion made it to Boulder City, it was too late. The NCR had rigged the town to blow. With one explosion, the best of the Legion was destroyed.
My lord, the ship appears to be deserted.
How can that be? They're hiding.
Yes, sir. But the bridge seems to be run by computer. It is the only thing speaking.
Speaking? Let me hear.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Get out!
3.
Get out!
What was left of this Legion ran for the hills largely leaderless. With the Legion's first real loss at Hoover Dam, Caesar, or Caesar, whichever you want, Eddie. He's Eddie. I'm sorry. You don't deserve the moniker. Anyway, Eddie and his remaining forces dug in across the Colorado River, waiting for a chance to try again. Now, after this point, though, despite the victory, the NCR is in a bit of a predicament. The Legion, while beaten at Hoover Dam, is still a large threat and can play the attrition game almost as well as the NCR. Thus, they require almost all of the NCR military's attention, which leaves other parts of the Mojave completely unguarded, allowing other enemies of the NCR to start gnawing at their backs. To make things worse, the NCR supply lines have been reduced greatly. With the explosion of the divide, only I-15 remains as an active supply line between the NCR proper and the Mojave, limiting the number of supplies and men that it can send to aid in the conflict.
I can say that we were both lucky that NCR supply lines and land routes north of Mojave Outpost were destroyed before the Battle of Hoover Dam. Something bad happened near Death Valley, at a place called the Divide. NCR couldn't cut across anymore, and it slowed down the reinforcements. Terrible storms ripped entire companies apart before they even got to Nevada soil. The aftermath of Hoover Dam could have been even worse for Caesar.
So to recap, at the start of the game, the NCR is stuck between a rock and a hard place, surrounded by enemies on all sides, fighting with whatever and whoever they can get. It's a republic trying to emulate the old world, crippled by its own ambition and overexpansion. But this is just scratching the surface. Let's look at their flaws in a little bit greater detail. Starting with the big one, economics. Thanks to the war with the Brotherhood, as I mentioned earlier, the gold standard of the NCR has put them in a bit of a predicament. As of New Vegas, they're experiencing an unhealthy amount of inflation, which of course leads to higher taxation. Taxes are the real slavery! They made me pay taxes!
Silence, terrorists!
Okay, let's address the tax issue that so many people have issue with. Oh, I'm sorry, most of which pretend to have issue with, because these are, again, more due to memes so than actual argumentation. Yes, I'm not a fan of taxes. Most of us aren't. But please consider, the Legion also has taxes. Mr. House will also tax settlements if he thinks it's funny.
As repayment for their NCR loyalty, Mr. House sends Securitrons to Prim to protect it and collect heavy taxes from its citizens.
Now, you can stop hating on the NCR exclusively because of taxes. Yeah, but it's kind of funny. Alright, that's fair. You know what? It is just a meme, and if you keep it just a meme, we'll allow it.
I'll allow it.
Moving on. The NCR government also has some corruption. Okay, it's got a decent bit of corruption. Ever since President Tandy died, the successor presidents have eroded more laws to help the wealthy at the expense of the country. The biggest sign of this is the Brahmin barons, landowners with so much land and money that they can heavily influence politics. Now, this might seem like a damning criticism, and if they were fighting different people, say like the folks in New Canaan, I might agree with you. But let's bear in mind, many countries have this problem to this day. Heck, you could argue I live in one. Again, I urge you to see the other options, though. You may not like having a government influenced by a bunch of wealthy guys. How about having everything controlled by one wealthy guy? Or even better, how about one genocidal wealthy guy? I think you see my point here. The NCR is a flawed republic, but it is still a republic and the others are dictatorships. One of them of might, the other of wealth. Remember, the officials of the NCR are still accountable to their people. Mr. House, Eddie, and you are not accountable to the people. Finally, the military. While the NCR military is impressive, it does have some issues. While their standard gear is decent, and the officers can be quite capable, that doesn't mean the military is flawless. The NCR traditionally has relied on a great deal of attrition to win its wars, which isn't always the most effective method. They also have officers who get promoted because of politics rather than ability. Colonel Shu should have been running the show at Hoover Dam, not this bozo! It also doesn't help that they have to heavily rely on conscripts who don't always have the best reputation in the fight. That being said, they are effective in most fighting situations. The great Khans will tell you about it as they cry themselves to sleep.
When the NCR came to the Mojave, we thought they would be easy pickings. We raided their caravans, their towns, their camps. They couldn't stop us. At least that's what we thought. They tracked us to Bitter Springs and surrounded us. When our children, our sick and old, fled through a nearby pass, the NCR gunned them down. Oh, they claimed it was a miscommunication, but tell that to those who saw our families butchered. Tell it to the survivors of the battle.
Oh, boo-hoo, the people I was raiding had the audacity to fight back. Grow screw yourself, Genghis would be ashamed of you. Sorry. I really hate the Khans. Pedantic pieces of crap. Anyway, the NCR military does have a few things going for it, though, aside from the flaws. For one, the Rangers. I love the Rangers. The NCR Rangers are phenomenal soldiers, masters of stealth and range warfare, when they don't just walk right up to you. Yeah, that's just dumb. Anyway, but speaking of ranged warfare, though, the NCR does have also the best snipers in the wasteland. Just ask Boone and 1st Recon.
Whatever you need, we'll make sure it gets done.
Along with good military capabilities, they also conduct scientific research and try to supply its citizens who are starving and destitute. So again, not perfect but not unsalvageable. They at least do show they care greatly for their own people. The biggest problem, though, is not from any one organization, but rather the NCR's actions. The NCR has made the mistake several nations and empires have over the years. Overexpansion. The NCR may be tough and resilient, but as of New Vegas, it's overstretched and having trouble holding on to all of its newly acquired land, and might have an easier time digesting these new gains if it didn't have Mr. House or the Legion in the way. But overexpansion is what brought them in contact with the two. This issue is made worse by the fact that thanks to unfortunate mistakes, there is now only one route to the Mojave from the NCR proper. Despite all their flaws, though, the overexpansion, the economic difficulties, and political corruption, I still firmly believe that the NCR is the best hope for the wasteland for long-term stability and degree of self-governance. Unless Joshua Graham decides to come out of retirement and take over the situation, but that's incredibly unlikely. But that'd be cool, though.
But we can't expect God to do all the work.
Keep in mind, the NCR is a federal republic with states. The Mojave, if brought into the NCR, would likely become its own state, meaning it would be able to elect its own representatives to send to the NCR government.
But the NCR government is corrupt.
Okay, you're not wrong. Some people, like the Brahmin barons, wield more influence than others. They also don't pick the best people they don't always pick the best people for jobs instead of favoring people that agree with them more politically. Looking at you, Oliver. That being said, the NCR is far better than the other options of the Mojave, particularly if you're concerned about corruption. Let's look. The Legion is a military dictatorship that enslaves or kills any would-be objectors to his rules. Good luck voicing complaints with a slave collar around your neck.
Okay, that may be true, but what about Mr. House? He's a great option.
Ah, yes, Mr. House. Let's willingly give over power to an immortal billionaire with an army of killer robots. Surely that will be the best for the welfare of mankind. Mr. House honestly couldn't give less of a crap about you. If you aren't producing money for him, or helping with some other project, you might as well not exist. If you don't like that, you may take your complaints directly to the closest Securitron.
Whoa!
Before you select Mr. House, ask yourself honestly, would you like to live in a world where Elon Musk or Bill Gates was your dictator in perpetuity? No chance of dying, and they can't be held accountable to anyone but themselves. I thought so. Then, of course, independent New Vegas. Yeah, that would be cool, assuming your courier is charismatic enough and intelligent enough to rule Vegas fairly and justly. But then what happens when they die? Who takes over? Most likely the region will devolve into a power struggle and turn into something resembling like that of New Reno, or the NCR will then move in again and try and take revenge. Regardless, if you want a morally good ending for the Mojave, the NCR is the best choice.
Nope. The NCR is the worst choice, because you have to do all the work for them. The NCR wouldn't survive without the courier helping.
Okay, I see where you're going, but no. The NCR wouldn't survive in the Mojave without you. The NCR would continue to exist, but that begs the question, where would the other factions be if the courier wasn't around to help them? Independent New Vegas is a bust for obvious reasons, but Mr. House is also screwed because without the courier he can't get his chip, nor can he sneak into the fort to upgrade his Securitrons. So, no luck there. Sorry, buddy. Then there's the Legion, the only faction who might be able to win without the courier. Even then, the Legion is screwed because Eddie will die thanks to that tumor in his head. Once Eddie's gone, his empire will start to fall apart, leaving whatever gains he does make in jeopardy.
Whatever. The NCR are weak cowards who deserve to die.
Gotta love the might makes right mentality here. No, the NCR isn't weak. They are arguably the strongest faction in the wasteland.
No, they're weak. I kill them easily in my playthroughs all the time.
Yes, but that's because you're playing as the Wasteland's equivalent of John Wick. You can shred anyone with enough ammo and the right build.
They are still weak.
Sure, bud. But do you remember that time they fought the Enclave? And won?
Well, they had the Brotherhood's help. They still suck at fighting.
Of course you do. But do you remember that time they fought the Brotherhood of Steel? And won?
They only won that due to attrition.
Naturally. But do you remember that time they fought the Legion and won due to clever tactics? I sure do. That's some good stuff right there.
But the NCR is afraid of the Legion.
Yes, because the Legion is an effective fighting force and is known to kill and torture and enslave captives. If you didn't have a little bit of nerves fighting such people, I'd honestly be surprised. And before you try and hit me with the cookie cutter line,
the Legion breaks through our defenses. I got one bullet I'm saving just for me.
I would like to point out to you that suicide is the Legion's go-to plan if they are losing, or at least it's supposed to be.
Better believe it. Everybody in Caesar's Legion from Caesar on down will kill themselves before they can be captured. They're so twitchy they'd probably do it if you reached out to hug them.
Let's just say the NCR doesn't have a monopoly on cowardice. Where's your leg at now, Tiberius? Anyway, calling the NCR weak because of their situation in the Mojave is like calling the United States weak in the 1960s because of the situation in Vietnam. Is morale low? Yes, it is. Is the enemy incredibly determined? Yes, they are. But are the forces actually weak? Hell no. I also want to ask you a serious question. Who would you rather work for and live for? Who appreciates you most at the end of the day? You guessed it, the NCR. The more missions you do for the NCR, the more of a living legend you become. With every NCR mission you do, the soldiers and citizens treat you as the hero you are, the messiah of the Mojave, if you will.
With the work you've done for NCR already, you might be just what I've been looking for.
Your being here is a start, soldier. We aren't exactly overflowing with troopers here.
It's good to see such an outstanding citizen of the NCR. What can I do for you, my friend?
Y'all sure are a big old hero. I gotta write my mama and tell her I met you.
Good, you made it. I've been receiving reports about the savior of the NCR for a while now and wanted to meet you myself.
Mr. House thanks you at the end of the game, but that's it. He sees you as an employee. That's all you are. You did good there, Johnny, but I expected that of you. Never mind that you just blew up a bunker full of heavily armored sci-fi knights single-handedly. You will be paid accordance with the contract. Maybe if I'm feeling benevolent a little bit later, I might throw you a pizza party. You may invite 2 friends. Just scratch that. 1. As for the Legion, they might start complimenting you towards the end of the game, but throughout the majority of the playthrough, you are still considered a profligate barbarian who's just one wrong step away from a crucifixion. Now, part of this isn't lore-wise so much as it is gameplay. One of the biggest benefits of the NCR is they have far more missions than anyone else. The Legion, in comparison, has very few missions outside of the main quest line. You can't trip over a rock in the Mojave, though, without finding a mission to help out the NCR. There is also the added benefit that not only is the NCR grateful for your help, but most missions where you help them often help out little guys in the process. Be they a couple of grunts just looking for a break, or a town of New Vegas citizens who are in need of food and water. Speaking of altruism, the NCR shows that they are the most reasonable, if you will. The NCR is, of course, willing to make allies, and this should be obvious, but they will even put away past grudges aside for the greater good. Oh, hi, when did the Tau get in here? Take the Brotherhood of Steel, though. The colonel that gives you the mission isn't happy about it, but you can forge an alliance with the Brotherhood and the NCR. That's right, the NCR is willing to put aside differences with mortal enemies for the sake of victory. Plus, even after the victory at Hoover Dam, the NCR actually continues to hold to the treaty, not harming the Brotherhood and accepting their help. But a little bit more on that later. Still, we need to talk about how to fix the NCR, the various problems that they all have. First, the economy. So gaining full control of Vegas is already going to help in that regard, but we need to fix the root of the problem, and that shouldn't be that hard. It's simple. I brought up the alliance with the Brotherhood earlier, and here's where I'm going to expand on that. See, the alliance specifically states that it only includes the Mojave chapter, but should they take that alliance and expand it out to the other Western Brotherhood chapters, this could save the economy. How, you ask? Remember, the economy is only in the tank because the Brotherhood was harassing the NCR's gold supply. With that threat gone, the NCR can reopen the gold mines and start fixing their economy. Now for the government, even simpler. Roll back the changes made after Tandy's administration. That's it. This would nip the Brahmin Baron problem right in the bud. This might completely eradicate corruption, but it will help mitigate it. Truth be told, you'd be hard-pressed to find a government without some degree of corruption. I know, I live in one. Next, the military. For this beast, the NCR needs to work on improving its supply lines and logistical capabilities. They also need to find a way to develop some artillery. You can't rely on the boomers forever. They also need to focus on improving the training of the rank and file. Numbers may help win a battle, but remember why you rely on the Rangers so much. Also, let's work on the defenses of Hoover Dam. You have presence there, yes, but your defenses are just sandbags. Seriously, put some trench lines in front of the dam or something. Defense in depth is a beautiful thing. Not to mention, once you get the alliance with the boomers, it would be prudent to go ahead and start just constantly raining artillery shells on Caesar's camp. He's just right there. Go ahead. Start sending some heavy ordnance that way. It would be a good idea. Soften up the target. Let them know, hey, by the way, don't F with us. That sort of thing. But now, for the biggest issue, overexpansion. The solution may surprise you. Simply don't expand anymore after Hoover Dam. Shocking, I know. Simply digest all of your recent conquests and wait to rebuild your supply lines and resources before expanding again. Honestly, you may want to wait a good long while to expand regardless, just to give your military time to rest and recuperate, but improving ways to supply your newly gained conquests are going to be very crucial to this. If you go on the offensive again too quickly, you will be in a lot of trouble. But thankfully, the Mojave will be much safer, because after an NCR run-through, Mr. House is no longer an option, which meaning the Securitrons are no longer an option. All the Raider gangs have practically been neutralized if you do most of the NCR missions, so give yourself a pat on the back for that one. And the families of New Vegas shouldn't really be that much of an issue, because you should have dealt with them. And without the Legion or the NCR to play off of, the Legion or Mr. House to play off of, they really won't have any way to effectively resist NCR rule and occupation. So that stabilizes most of the problems in the Mojave. So, to recap though, if you want to save the Mojave and its people, then you will need to bring law and order back to the wasteland. You're going to need the NCR. I'll still hate them though. Okay, fine, just bump your speech up and have the NCR do a water sharing treaty. I don't think that's as good, but it's a solid number 2 at least. Regardless of what faction you pick though, I hope you enjoyed this video, because the courier is headed out again. Take care, fellas, and I will see you in the next one.